Anyone else? Where are people on the mountain? I'm just curious. Maybe get a couple more shout outs.
I'm that guy, like, just hanging on. You just
Which one are you hanging on there? Yeah. You're on the treadmill of life. on the hamster wheel.
Clinging onto my playing career, trying to squeeze out 8 more years.
Oh yeah. Don't keep that one going. Nice. I guess I shared this to start with because I think my behaviours will be impacted a bit by checking in with people. So as a good example, hopefully, so I did a session at Northampton Saints once, and I got all the players I said 0 to 11, spinal tap. There might not be enough old people on this call to get that reference. 0 to 11, like just stand on the line as to how excited you are about tonight's session. And one kid stood at 0. And I was like, oh, mate, like, tell me more. And he just went, I've had a really rough day at school today, Rusty. This has happened. We've been doing exams, I just want to like chillax. And so that's helpful for me because one of my preferences is to like probably go higher on challenge than sometimes I need to. And so, but that information's helpful. So I guess my first nudge is that, and I'm sure you're doing it really well, but that kind of instant when you see people and you might notice something that's slightly different, or what are the questions that'll help you, or I use this quite a lot. This could be an hour of just checking in with people sometimes and they often reveal stuff. And because it's in the third person, because they're on the mountain, like they start talking about this person like it's someone else, and they usually give me some stuff that's quite helpful. Anyway, there's my starting slide. And then I just put together a few videos that hopefully that the audio will work and people can hear them, that just like lean in a little bit to like coach behavior. So this is Higgy, maybe just like worth watching him and go, what's the stuff you notice? So I'll play it. And people might have seen this video before. Justin Bieber, like, put it on his Instagram.
Okay, it's okay.
Older than me, everyone's bigger.
You don't have to tackle.
Bob, listen to me. No, Bob, listen to me. Trust me. Look at me. Look at me, Bob. I'm the shortest kid here. Listen, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're short, you're young. It doesn't matter if you're tall or hit. It doesn't matter if you're fat. It doesn't matter if you're tall. Bob, you are a brilliant rugby player. You understand that? You're insane. You're actually insane for your age. You're insane. Come here, give me a hug.
Best teammate ever.
All right?
Best teammate.
Really good.
Come on.
So come on. No one. It doesn't matter if everything.
This is one of my favourite clips ever. I'm sure people might have seen it before. I'm just curious if anyone, like, you feel free on mute and go, oh, I noticed the coach do this, or this was like, he did this and it was helpful.
Well, one thing I noticed was the coach didn't really say anything. He just,
it
seems like he kind of analyzed it and was like, hey, I don't need to butt in here. My athletes are supporting each other. So
nice. Class.
Know when to step back, right?
Yeah, thanks, Byron. I said to Higgy, like, this is your finest moment, Higgy, when you pick this ball up. This is like your greatest coaching moment ever. And I did ask him, like, how intentional was he? And he said, Rusty, I was in shock. I'd never seen a kid speak to another kid like that. And I actually didn't know what to do. So I was buying myself a bit of time. What he actually then does is just reinforce. So
best teammate ever.
We have language around best teammate. So I really like shared language. Can people see your language around things like best teammate, staying in the moment, some stuff that I think is helpful in team sports. And there's a lot of setup that gets to this actually. So actually how we start the day with this group is everyone puts their name on the whiteboard. Other people write down the stuff they notice about them, that's their strengths. So we do peer-to-peer. We put it on a whiteboard so that people feel safe and they don't necessarily have to speak in front of the group. And then by the end of the day, we then start to go, okay, what's the one thing that's going to like take your game to the next level? And then they might go, has anyone noticed anything about someone else that would help them? And we actually get used to that kind of challenge mindset quite quickly. And I think in those if you have that environment, then it's really normal to then go, okay, someone's struggling here. They need my help. And lots of people say to me, by the way, Rusty, I wouldn't be the first kid, I would be the second kid. So I also I love this moment as well. And I think as you said there, Byron, like Higgy's ability to think, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? And actually do nothing and be skillfully silent is super important. So there's one clip. Next clip. I'll just talk through this one actually. So Martin Drury works at Man United. He's actually at Valencia now. And this kid's been working on something with his non-dominant foot. And one of the coaching skills that I think is really helpful is replay. Do you want to have another go at that? Because proximity to feedback is super helpful. So Martin also does another thing that I love. He signposts mindset. So I love that you're still enjoying the struggle of this. Keep going. Like, we're going to get there. So he says, would it be helpful to have another go now? While everyone else is like listening to the coach over here talk rubbish. Because that's what huddles sometimes are. And so he says, oh, do you want to have another go? And he has another go and he misses, which kind of stresses me out a little bit because I often want success. Anyway, they then get into the game, and a few seconds later, the kid gets an intercept and gets it. And then Martin, who is often wearing his metaphorical Manchester United mask, comes in with runs in and gets low and gives this kid a high five, which is pretty cool as well. So this kind of moment of, I've noticed this kid struggling with it. I'm going to scaffold him and give him an opportunity. I'm going to signpost mindset. I'm then going to catch him when he does it well. I guess the type of things as coaches, you'll be thinking about a lot. And one of the things I talk a lot about is can we turn moments into memories? It's I'm sure if I asked you all to imagine the most impactful coaching moment someone ever had with you, then that might be a great memory that was a moment at one point and then became a memory. Okay, next one. So I'm just going to show these, then we've got some stuff we can. I'm just curious about this one. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to ask you what you notice.
Who said it? Who said? I said 8 years ago, like when we had the ball up there. We've got to freeze here.
What are people noticing about the clip? I'm just curious. I haven't given you much context, so apologies. If I could give you more context, I would, but I'm choosing not to.
It seems like there's some conflict happening, but
there's some conflict, isn't there? So the challenge I set the coaches for this session is, because in football, they all say coaches have to drive hustle. So the challenge was, this needs to be the most competitive session of the 3 days, but the coaches are only allowed to whisper. So you're not allowed to raise your voice. He raises his voice here because he's trying to just clarify something. But I think this is the most competitive session. And this kid who approaches here has completely lost his head, which is...
Who said it? Who said? I said 8 years ago.
Mission accomplished. But actually, how can we, through our practice design and thinking about our behaviours and what we've created in this session, and there's way more player ownership in this session. They get the opportunity to call freeze and replay and those things that I guess I'm going to talk about in a second. And suddenly it feels like the game. And people that are really cleverer than me will talk about stimulus driven attention. So the minute people are super as you said, there's conflict and they're stressed, they miss opportunities often. They don't see as much stuff. The more stressed they are, the less they see. And so, but I also believe that making training feel like the game is a really important part of coaching, because ultimately the game judges your training. So, and then this is the last clip. So I wonder what people notice on this one. This isn't a clip. This is a picture. I'm just curious. So what people notice about this. This is over in France. So if anyone's good at French, bonjour. Any stuff people are thinking about when they see this clip? This is one of my finest moments, this clip, so please see something.
It's just maybe the positioning of the coaches. It seems like the players are using the whole field. They're all looking to one direction, and the coaches are right in the middle.
Yeah, cool. So thanks, Pico. I appreciate that. And these coaches actually agreed 10 minutes earlier what their coaching roles were going to be and what they were going to notice. and 10 minutes later they are all seduced by the ball, looking at the ball. So they definitely thought about their positioning before. I think of positioning as your first touch. So in football, in hockey, our first touch, super important. And if we end up in the wrong position, we can actually miss great coaching moments. If we end up in good positions, we can be part of great coaching moments. And the reality is 95+% of rugby is off the ball. So I would probably, if I was coaching rugby now, which I do, but I would encourage people to maybe create some levels around what really good off the ball players look like. What's level 1, what's level 2, what's level 3. But these coaches are currently unable to do that because they are all looking in the same place. So I guess maybe my nudge is, as we talk about coach behaviors, it becomes way more complicated if there's more than one coach. So I won't ask people to put their hand up if they've had a really poor co-coaching experience, because the person who had the co-coaching experience might be on this call, and I wouldn't want that to happen. However, and the smiles hopefully mean that they aren't. But I haven't co-coached that well with many people, and I think part of this like coach behavior stuff is actually working out how are we going to co-coach. And for me, that starts with like, what do we both think coaching is? So if I'm coaching with you, Travis, and you think coaching is telling everyone what to do, and I think coaching is helping people help themselves, then we're going to fundamentally behave very differently. So often, and I'll share a couple of frameworks that have helped me around doing that. So there's a few images, and I guess just my signposting to you, and I definitely need to signpost. I might not go through the slides in the same order. Someone told me once, Rusty, it really annoys me when you do that, and I didn't realize that was a thing, so I'm just going to tell you that now. But I guess my job is to maybe go, oh, there's some other options, and for you to bring some stuff that you've got as well, and then you to go away and go, in my context, what will work? I see way too much coaching that's on this side, where they're not actually observing others, sharing with others, going and watching other sports, like creating opportunities to go, okay, if I could add one more thing to my coaching toolbox, what would it be? So talking of coaching toolboxes, now I will reference this a bit. We created one, and I'll share a bit of stuff with you guys from this. Unfortunately, can't get the book because it's they're just using it on Premier League courses, and just wanted to try and help coaches better understand coach behaviors. I think I put this on the slides, didn't I, Paul, like this image? Cool. Yeah. I'm getting some nods, so that's helpful. And just to be able to have some shared language in a coaching team as well around, okay, like this is a freeze, or this is a replay, or whatever we're going after. And then I'll show you one of the slides later around like how we've put it together to help people think about it. And I guess you'll be doing this stuff anyway, is my nudge to you. This is probably to help people be more intentional with it. So you might go, I'm really good at questioning. So you might actually be, I'm asking great questions. So a question I might ask a lot is, do me a favor, everyone, just point to someone who you're really struggling to defend. Because that's a helpful thing for me to know. Who am I? So it's really helpful for me to know that Byron's really struggling to defend Paul. Okay, cool. Okay, Paul, show me how you would defend yourself. So I might stack question with peer-to-peer with show me. So I guess as you become more adept at your coaching, you can probably be more intentional going, okay, what could I stack that with? And I guess maybe this is a moment for me just to go, is there anything that anyone's thinking about, or there's anything on here that you're going, oh, Rusty, could you just explain that a little bit more to me without me necessarily explaining all of it? Because I guess some of it will come up when I'm chatting. Appreciating how deeply you're looking at it, Paul Hunter. Forensically examining it.
Hey, Rusty, on the previous slide, you mentioned scaffolding. Could you just explain a little bit more what you mean by that in a coaching context?
Yeah, so I think a lot about levels. So I think levels, you can't unsee levels. So but that's for teams and that's for individuals. So I might play games where I'm going to come back to scaffolding in a second. We might start on level 1 of the game, and the first team to get to 2 tries will move to level 2. And in that level, actually it's no talking. And you got to score 2 more tries, and the other team can still talk. And what are the levels of the game? But also, I guess, what are the levels that's going to scaffold it for people? So I'm doing a workshop on Thursday around people having challenging conversations. And how might I scaffold it? I might go, actually, me and Paul are going to play out a conversation. And what I want people to do is observe it and tell us what they noticed that's good, or give a bit of advice. So that might be level 1, might be observing Rusty and Paul doing it. Level 2 might be, how else might I scaffold it? Okay, I'm going to give you like 10 minutes to prepare for you to do the conversation. And then we might do the conversation level 3, where I just play out a conversation. So me and Jamie have the conversation. And then level 4 might be, actually, I'm going to video myself doing it. So for me, I think about levels, but what's the information the person needs that's going to help them have success? Because, when you move between like here and here, the one emotion you're going to feel is frustration. And so if we're too close to like the end point and they don't know the bits that are going to help them get there, then that's super frustrating, and it's probably not that helpful. Has that explained? I don't know if I've explained it well, but that's what I think.
That's helpful. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rusty.
And you'll have different players on levels. So as an example for me, I'll turn up to a lot of places for the first time. And one of the first things I'll do is point to the player on the other team that's the hardest player to defend. Cool. And I'll go, cool, if you guys are cool with this, so I'll generally ask permission. I would love you to wear a headband. And if you just so that people know that it's you, and if you get tackled, it's going to be worth a try. Do you understand why I'm doing that? So I'll probably then ask them, like, do you understand the rationale? Because they might go, oh my God, Rusty's made it really hard for me. But actually, there's a couple of things. One is the better players will then share the ball more often. That's a skill they're going to need in the future. And also defense coaches attack. So our best players have got people hungry to try and tackle them because it's worth a try. And then I've already put them on a slightly different level of the game to everyone else. Hopefully that makes some modicum of sense. And for me, that's just like, I'll do that quite quickly because I know that often in places I go to over here, the best players aren't stretched enough. It's really common. Cool. Any more questions about that, or anything that's kind of landed so far? Got a million slides, so. One thing I am working on is creating these pause moments, because I wouldn't do them normally, and someone gave me some feedback. I need to create them, and so I'm practicing before your very eyes.
Well, Rusty, I appreciate the note there on prompt. The example of your prompt in that slide is a question versus a tell. I find when I'm working with coaches, there's a lot of telling. I don't know if it's Paul can maybe chime in here. I notice it more of a North American. It's very driven, and we see a lot of coach driven stuff. So I appreciate that it's a question and decision making in the athlete versus telling, which is something that is a challenge when we're working with coaches.
Let me, and I'm just writing down stuff to share with you. Dan Carroll, who I work with at Bournemouth, has done a project on prompting. I will share it with you, Paul, to share with the group. I think it is one of the most helpful coaching skills. So I guess often I think coaches are coaching in the past rather than the future. And so we started doing a bit of it at Bournemouth, and I love this from the kids. So as an example of a prompt, an example of something in the past might be, oh my God, Byron, why did you do that? Or Byron, pass, Byron, pass. Versus, Neil, where's your next pass? Neil, where's your next pass? Jared, who do you need to be speaking to? So, and we asked the kids. So DC said, have you noticed what I'm doing with my language? And the kids said, I love this. They said, you're waking us up. And we see stuff before they need to see it, so we can prompt them. And then what we also started doing with the kids is helping them be better prompters. So the goalkeepers might be going, who have you got? Who are you marking? Who do you need to be communicating with? How can we stop shots? And again, if they don't know how to answer those things. If I was to say, Byron, who do you need to be speaking to? And you don't know, well, at least I know from that prompt that you don't know. And then I can then go, Byron, like, maybe try this for the next 5 minutes. Like, if you connect slightly better with Kevin, I think that's going to help you. It's pancake day in England, and my wife just brought pancakes, 3 of them. What a time to be alive. So yeah, I love a prompt. I think it's like a super helpful coaching tool, and probably one that I wasn't using as well as I could be.
Hey, Rusty, I have a quick question on that. Would you use the same approach in a game, or mostly during practice where you can have more of open questions that let your athlete the time to reflect, or in a game it's like, okay, you got to make those decisions so fast that you kind of your prompts are going to change a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, context is everything, isn't it? So if I was going to lose my job, I might go, for God's sake, do this. If I was like desperate. Yeah, look, and it's interesting. So the coach, it reminds me of, I'll generally start with a story. So we were at St. George's Park recently, and one of the coaches was like really in the past, and I just said like, and we do match day coaching. And so I was like, why don't you just try and coach in the future for the rest of the game? And he was in shock for a little bit and sat down and tried to work it out. And then, but one of the limitations of a match is you can't prompt as many people. So actually your positioning is quite fixed. So, lots of football coaches are shouting across the pitch to the person on the far side who can't hear and is distracted by me shouting at them, as are all the other people I'm shouting across. So might be worth, like, I don't know what it's like in your sport, but in hockey, as an example, I think we could spend way more time prompting and questioning players as they come on and go off, and probably give the bench a bit of a mission control type. We might prompt that, give them a couple of prompts on the whiteboard. It might be like, what's the one problem they're causing us? What's the one problem we're causing them? What do you need to do when you next go on the pitch? So those are prompts, aren't they? Especially with sports that have interchanges. I think those moments on the side where you could be thinking slow, I'm not sure coaches maximize them as well as they could. That's just my experience of it. You might tell me otherwise. But I would definitely use prompts on match day. And again, you might want to agree some language. So you might want to go like, I really don't want to prompt, and I'm aware that our communication as the opposition high up the pitch is essential because it means we can trap them in their own half. So here's a couple of prompts I might use. And something I've tried to use with coaches is go, okay, like, let's imagine this part of the session. What are the 2 or 3 prompts that you feel like you might need if things aren't going well as a first resort, to then see if that has impact? Because the prompt also allows the activity to keep running, doesn't it? Shall I go on to the next slide? Is everyone cool with that? And we might get, this slide appears again later, so it's fine. Okay. I think my view is that coaches aren't intentional enough with this stuff. They don't have, it's not on their development plan. They don't have a column in the spreadsheet that talks about what it is that the coaches are working on around their coaching craft or the coach behaviors. So if I give you a good example, Max Caldas, coached the Dutch women, looks way cooler than me. Looks like he's in Peaky Blinders. This was a couple of a few weeks before the Olympics. Spain were playing GB, and I messaged Max. I said, "Oh mate, I'm at the GB game. Are you about?" And he went, "Oh no, I'm ill." And I was like, "Oh mate, it's a shame. I'll catch up with you soon." He went, "No, I'm pretending I'm ill. I'm in disguise. I'm in the crowd. The coaches don't know. I've told 2 players they're going to give the coaches feedback on how well they did in the day." And he showed me his watch. And he said, "And this is the most stressed I've been in 2024." So I think this kind of experimental, I'm going to try stuff. I'm going to do one session where I prompt in the future rather than in the past. I'm going to do one match where actually I really intention around the players that come on and off the pitch and my interactions and my prompts with them. And I'm going to see if that leads to better outcomes on the pitch. So I guess my nudge is always like, just think like a scientist and try experiments. And, this guy's about to go to the Olympics. They finished 4th. They should have finished about 10th. But, you know, he's like, well, if I get COVID at the Olympics and we haven't done this, then we're in trouble. So I'm only going to explain this quickly. I kind of, this is me really, but if I talk about some stuff that you will see that has influenced my coaching behaviors. So I always, you know, we are influenced, you know, we are products of our autobiography, aren't we? So I was an ex-professional player and I hated it. I am rebelling. I think lots of environments are people are not enjoying what they do, and I think that's absolutely mental, coaches and players. I think of learners who've got a alcoholic mother-in-law, and you can physically and metaphorically try and break in around the back, but the reality is they need to open the door. So I have a very probably a slightly different view of learning to what other people have, and ultimately my goal is to help people help themselves. Really good example. Harry Godfrey's playing 10 for the Hurricanes at the moment. Harry, tell me how you set up your week to maximize the coaches to help you get better. How are you using coaches to get better? It's a good question, Rusty. I haven't got a clue. Cool. So I then need to help Harry with the skills to access and get the best out of coaches to help himself get better. So I think of that, so that will influence my coach behaviors. I'm not going to get frustrated with Harry because I know that he doesn't have the skills, and I'm going to go, mate, here's some skills that'll help you help yourself. And I'll help him with those skills and we'll practice it. I'm like, okay, cool. Imagine, Harry, if I'm a coach, like, how would you have that conversation? I'll do loads of practice. So if for example, I'm, you know, let's say I'm working with you, Paul, and you're talking about, oh, Rusty, I'm going to do a bit of peer-to-peer feedback. I'll go, cool, show me how you would do that. Let's imagine that Kevin's one person and Byron's the other, like, show me how you do that. And I'll go, oh, mate, are you cool if I video you doing it? Because that might be helpful. You might like get some opportunity. So for me, I guess that my view of learning influences like my coach behaviors a lot. Which other one probably influences me a lot? Probably this one. So I chatted to Johnny Wilkinson, played rugby for England, if you're old enough to remember. And I was at an England session and I said, chatting to Johnny, and I said, what were your memories of like training here? What was your best bits? And he said, my best bits, Rusty, were leaving. I was like, oh my God, that's made me really sad. And then he said, look, I'm really starting to understand psychology now. I'm about 1.3% of the way there. And I thought, oh my God, I've got a lot to do. And but the reality is psychology is everywhere. So that will influence my coach behaviors loads. I'll be way more curious than I used to be about, okay, how come you made that decision? Or definitely around checking in with people and how you're feeling. And because I know that confidence and belonging and lots of those things are important. So, and then just as another nudge, like I worked for the RFU. When I lost my job, I did a subject access request. They showed me all the emails the leaders were sending about me behind my back. And it makes you realize like your environment is going to influence your coach behaviors significantly. I was in a place probably for the last year where I found it really hard to be myself. And that was like very visceral and probably not that good for me. And I guess as a coach developer, like I'm often trying to get under the bonnet of people. So those actions and behaviors like that we talk about, I'll often, you know, and if you're working with coaches, it sounds like some of you are, you might go, okay, like when you decided to do that. So when you chose to stop the whole session and bring everyone in, like what were your other options? What, you know, what was your second choice? But also like all of this comes from, and that's why I guess for me, pretty early, I want to understand like what's a coach's beliefs and values and skills. So if you're not very good at asking questions, guess what? You don't ask questions. If you believe that telling people what to do and, you know, putting them and organizing them is going to win you like games where they need to problem solve, then you're probably going to coach that way. So I will pretty quickly ask coaches questions such as, same as I would ask players, if you give me one piece of information that's going to help me work even better with you, what would it be? And John Mitchell gave me the best answer ever. Rusty, I've lost my last 3 jobs. I'm ready to change. And some people broke into my house, stabbed me and left me for dead. And I'm living every day like it's my last. That was pretty helpful information. And of course, that then influences how I interact with him. But if I don't ask that question, if I don't get under the hood quickly, then my coach behaviors might be really unhelpful. Okay. I'm going to just do this one, then I'm going to pause again briefly. I'm mindful of that. So this was a guy I met who plays for San Francisco 49ers, the Tongan Tiger. And I went for dinner with him and I asked him about why he made it. And if you can read this bit, he said, found a mentor at 17 and gave me 4 demands prior to being mentored. So 1 was get off all social media. 2 was make a new friend every day in class. Number 3 was feed the homeless every week. And the 4th one, which gave me goosebumps, and was check in with, and for him it was 11, check in with the people who've helped you get this far in life every month for the rest of your life. So he's 24 now. For the last 7 years, he's checked in with those 11 people every month for 7 years. So I guess when I'm thinking about my coach behaviors, and I'm sure you are leaving an amazing footprint on other human beings. Hopefully. And my sense is that sport done well does that better than anything I know. Like the emotion, the connection, the stuff we do, but done badly, like if you get your coach behaviors wrong, you don't understand context, if you don't understand the individual, then quite frankly, it's a shit show. And we would all have loads of examples of that. I'm sure if I asked you all, like, who was the coach that didn't get the best out of you and didn't help you, who was that person, you would all be able to answer that question quite quickly. I'm looking for a nod now where someone's like nodding and they're thinking, Paul, you must have had someone that like left an amazing footprint for you.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiments there when, sport just has impact. And I think I find the further away from your time with a coach, you actually find the impact that they had on your life more than the sport. So the closer you are to that coach, it's the impact on the sport. But when you're kind of 3, 4, 5 years removed, especially I think post high school, at high school, you think they're making you a good athlete, and then way past high school, you're like, there's these values that have been instilled in you. But I probably reflect more on how sport has molded me as a person than an athlete.
So I guess my nudge again is just one thing, if you could all make me a pinky promise and message 2 or 3 people that have impacted your life, then we will continue the ripple effect. So if people put a pinky up and tell me they're going to do it, that would be super helpful for me. You're going to reach out to 2 people who've had impact on you. Awesome. Kevin, you put your hand up so quickly. Who are you thinking of? Who's the person you immediately thought of that's had impact? We're all excited for Kevin to unmute himself to work that bit out. Come on, Kevin, you can do it. You can unmute yourself. We're with you. We believe in you. It's not happening. Has anyone else got someone they were thinking of immediately till Kevin works out the unmute button? Who are you thinking of, Byron?
Actually, I'm
Kevin's
thinking
in,
about
Kevin's
some of my teammates from my early days in BC.
Nice, class. Kevin got assistance there. I don't think we didn't see that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not great with Teams. My wife just showed me how to mute my microphone. I'm kind of embarrassed. I had an old T-ball coach, and a long story short, I ran into him at the dentist the other day, and yeah, that's who I'd reach out to.
Nice, class. Again, for me, this is the impact you're having as coaches, and so I think a lot about your behaviours. So think about those that were helpful and those that were less helpful, and sometimes, like, one of the phrases I use a lot is like, I think coaches are admiring the problem, and lots of people that would like have conversations with me and go, Rusty, that was really helpful. Or where, you know what, no one else was willing to tell me that. People weren't honest with me. They shied away from having that conversation, and probably something I would like really lean into now. I think it's super kind to have important conversations with people. Cool, let's go. I'm just curious what landed. I know I sent some stuff and I maybe reference it, but like, what landed from this stuff I sent? Did anyone get a chance to have a think about any of it? And again, I'm just curious, like a few people maybe that I haven't heard from that would go, oh, it made me think about this. but I quickly have half a pancake. Did you guys get it? Did you? It looks like Jamie's looking like she's seeing it for the first time. Paul, I'm like thinking Paul is like.
I'm going to double. You should have received this by you. Did anyone not receive it, or did we receive it?
Well, that's fine. If people haven't had a chance, it's cool. But for me, it's really around growing your awareness of your coach behaviors and thinking about, okay, what am I currently doing? And then, like, what's the stuff that I could add to my repertoire?
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar, Rusty. Like sometimes you're not really aware that you're using those coaching behaviors, and then you put it on paper. It's like, yeah, actually, I do this sometimes, or maybe I should do this more often. Maybe I tell my athletes what to do a little bit more instead of having them reflect more often, right? So it's kind of like finding the right balance and all of these things to make yourself a better coach.
Yeah, cool. And I wouldn't use the word balance. I would use the word decision making. So you have options. So when you're aware of it, you can make good decisions. You can go actually in this. Well, you can place better bets. You've probably got a better chance of winning. We're not going to win all of our bets. So, some stuff's going to work. Some stuff isn't going to work. Nice.
And I was saying team sports, all the athletes are different, right? Different personalities. So those decisions might differ from athlete to athlete, and it's trying to get to know your players.
Yeah, and cool. And you might, that's when I go back to the kind of this slide here, I might go, okay, like you had this interaction with this player, like give an example of a couple of players where the interaction would be different. Tell me how that interaction would look with those players. And as you said, like, one of my things I didn't speak about here is everyone's at a different bus stop. So, like, appreciating that, how do I get the best out of everyone? And one of the questions I'll often ask is, like, if I could be the best coach you've ever had, like, what would be your advice? And they often give me really good answers. Now, we might then debate wants and needs, but I'll often ask that type of question. Cool. Well, look, I'll leave that with you. And then I'm just going to go on a few things. So I've been thinking a lot about like first principles. So what is the stuff that's like the things that are like, I would then be able to explain what I do by. So if I give you an example, this is in Canada. This is at college. I can't remember the name of the school. Someone else might know it. The one where Aaron Tackle works. And one of my first principles is that you can't coach decision making without score and time. That is true. Yet lots of coaches don't have score and time, and take away some really like, how are the opponents going to play? What's the weather like? What's the score? What's the time? What's our league position? So we could set up a session and go, okay, this is the situation, is 5 minutes to go. We're bottom of the league. It's, this is it. The opponent's going to play this way. But we just don't, in my experience, do enough of that stuff. And we take a lot of it out. So if you think about, rugby and last play of the game, near your try line, 1 point up, 1 point down, you make two completely different decisions. So that's one of my first principles. So I thought I'd share a few kind of things that I guess shaped my behaviors. One is this. So if I asked you all, and you can share, or you can put in the chat if you wanted, like, what's the 2 things you measure yourself on? So this is Gary Mack, coach of Brentford now. And he measures himself same as me, because I said to him, he said to me, what do you measure yourself on, Rusty? And I said, and it's really hard to go in the spreadsheet for the NGB. Sorry, Paul. I measure myself on hugs in 5 years' time. So if I see someone that I've interacted with, hopefully they'll give me a hug. That probably means I was helpful for them. So I'm just, again, and this is probably a good one as well to think about with co-coaches, like, if we could measure ourselves, or we could measure this team on what we achieved this year and it can't be winning, what would it be? Has anyone got something they They go, actually, I measure myself on that. Heard a great one yesterday. I was with a football coach, and he's coaching girls who are new to football. And he said, they've all bought loads of replica strips. We should have measured ourselves on that. Like, we've inspired them so much, they've gone and bought a replica strip. I thought, that's cool, eh? Has anyone got something cool they measure themselves on, or that's like super important to them? Because this will drive most of your behaviors.
I think for when I'm working with kids, it's if they show up the next week.
Yeah, cool, class. Nice. And are they showing up the next week, Byron?
A good chunk, yeah.
Yes, come on. And again, lots of sports clubs over here should definitely use that measure. They should use the measure of, how quickly do they run out of the cars? How many of them bring their friends the next week? How many unsolicited emails do I get from adults telling me that their kid loves the sport now, that they've found their place? So I guess this is a nudge. And again, I think this is, I'll often, if I have two coaches, I'll go, has anyone coached together? And they'll go, yeah. And I go, okay, like, just separate yourselves and just want you to write down, and it can't be winning. What are the three most important things you're going to measure this season for this team, and rank them? And like, because no one has ever been aligned. And of course that then, because your coach, give me an example, Byron, of a coach behavior, two or three coach behaviors you do because of what you measure. So you want them to come back next time. Give me some examples of how you behave in order to achieve that.
Yeah, so lots of positivity, lots of encouragement, trying to make sure they feel safe, right? Comfortable. Yeah, I think that's kind of pretty broad stuff.
If I said to you, Byron, we've moved that metric, you now need to get these kids promoted or you're going to lose your job. Is there anything that would change, or do you think that's also part of you as a human?
Yeah, I think as long as you're kind of touching on those basic fundamentals, yeah, I don't think anything changes, because I think that's the best way to connect and to get them to that next level, right? You got to build that trust.
Nice, class. By the way, loads of coaches over here don't think that, especially in soccer. Don't put that bit out. So look, I think this is something that for me is also first principle, like, know what it is you're measuring yourself on. The reality is you don't control winning. Next one, I think you'll only thrive where you belong. So probably a little bit around what you said there. So you only get the best out of people when they belong. Am I still sharing this or not?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, feels like it's moved. Am I on? Oh yeah, I am there. That was another. So this is the Samoans before they go out to win a game, and like, oops, sorry. And it's and this is like grown up, like, performance sports. Going to be loads of people who coach kids who go, no, this is serious stuff. So I think very deeply about, like, how are people going to belong here? And so peer-to-peer would be something I would use loads. I would think a lot. I think there's a great example from the girls who won the Olympics hockey, and anyone that entered their team, the first thing that would happen was everyone else would tell them why they were really excited for that person to join the team. I think that's a really good way to do onboarding, as some people call it. So again, your behaviors would come from that. Next first principle for me is it needs to feel like the game. So this is Arsenal. This is coach I work with, Mike Donaldson, and this is what 16 and 17-year-old kids should be feeling like and doing. And it's, in my opinion, it's often like academy football is quite organized, professional, and actually they can't be themselves. I love this. So I guess I'm also thinking about how do we design practices and what are our behaviors there for, to create moments that feel like the game. Something I think about a lot. I said this earlier, but as coaches, we help moments become memories. So I think those moments, maybe to pick up on what you said, Byron, like if someone does something well, I imagine like you'll be thinking about, you might not be thinking about, might just do it naturally, but your facial expression, catching people in, probably, maybe giving them a high five, maybe getting a couple of other kids to, you might go, oh, like everyone just going like, just tell Kevin what he just did that was awesome, and then get a bit of peer in. So for me, I think a lot about, we have loads of opportunities, loads of moments where we can coach, but actually what's the coaching skill or the behavior that's going to help them become memories? I have a really good, I love this one here. So Foxy played for England 18s. This is 10 years ago. And he spoke to me last year and he said, Rusty, I still think about those sessions we did with the target top. So the target top was, if you got hold of anyone with the target top, and if you see the picture close up, he looks like he's been mauled by a lion. Then it's like worth points for your team. And again, it's around stretching the best players. But 10 years on, he's like, Rusty, those sessions were like incredible. They helped me get better. Like, so we created like memories from those moments. So I guess that's my nudge to you. Maybe like we should be thinking about sessions as, what are going to be the 5 or 6 like amazing memories I'm going to create from this session? I don't think enough coaches are thinking like that. I'm sure you are. And here's probably a great example of that. So, and again, I went into, this coach works at West Ham, and I went in there recently, and the kids still talk about it. Their bus got stuck on the way to a competition, so they created loads of different roles around communication. So they had like the negotiator, Alex, who struggled with emotional regulation. His job was to communicate effectively with the referee. Abdul was injured, so he was like the gaffer, and he was going to run the game. So they all had these different communication roles, and that was their focus for the tournament. I love questions for sessions. So the question for them for this tournament was, can we win this tournament through being the best communicators? And so they divided up some roles, and they worked out they're going to do it on the bus, and they did it, and the kids still talk about it. And was it helpful? Well, guess like communication, super helpful. They lost the first game. They got off the bus and lost the game by 3-0 or whatever. And to be fair to Luke, he's like, no, this is like the focus. And then they won the final eventually, but they struggled at the start, and then it was like super helpful for them. So again, how do we turn moments into memories? I think this is class coaching craft. And for me, on the coaching, on the icons I showed, this is priming. So what are we going to do before the competition, before the training, that helps people be more effective in the training? So I guess sharing sessions the night before and going, I want everyone to write on the whiteboard, set themselves a challenge, mild, medium or spicy would be a way of doing that. I am now going to stop and pause and go, has anyone got any questions, or has anything landed with anyone? Paul, you're writing notes, so I'm curious as to what you're writing as well.
I'm a questions person for a few people that kind of know my coaching, but like maybe one of the questions that just jumped out to me, I love the onboarding piece of asking other athletes or other participants to share why they're excited for somebody to join. But that I think that open question is so powerful. And the questions I was just looking at here is, what opportunities have we taken? What opportunities have we missed? Just getting that question as open as possible, so that you're kind of not leading and trying to give them that space where they can share. But love the open questions.
Yeah, and sometimes like my bias is for open questions, so I might go, okay, your team's going to move to the next level of the game. Give me a couple of options around that. And sometimes teenage boys give me terrible options, at which point I will probably go, okay, you've got this or this, and you've got 5 seconds to choose. But I will initially go, generally I'll go as divergent as possible, mainly because I'll get to steal some really good ideas from kids. Like if I go, what's the next level of the game? Both teams, you got 20 seconds to make the game harder for the team that's on the next level. Give me a rule. they will give me way better rules than I will think of. And when I start asking, when I do CPDs with adults, I go, cool, give me the next level. Imagine you're the kids. And coaches will be like, okay, right. And the kids have just come up with way better stuff than me. So I was in NZ recently and coaching, and one of the girls said, Rusty, can we take away their best two communicators, please? Can we tell them they can't speak? And that's a really like soft way of almost like making everyone else communicate. But you're also getting a bit of good feedback that you're a good communicator, but actually, and then I might scaffold that and I might go, okay, you've got the two best communicators, you've got 30 seconds with your team just to do a handover, and then we're getting into the game and you can't speak. So yeah, I'm all over the open questions. Any other stuff that people are thinking about? I've still got loads of slides, so shall I play on? Okay, so one of my first principles is that them to me is better than me to them. So how do I create moments where players come to me rather than I go to them? Because me going to you and going, Jared, you need to work on this. It's completely different to Rusty. I really want to work on this. Can you help me with it? So as an example, here's Aidan at Ulster, now at Munster. Like the session's called "How can we help you squeeze every drop?" and the players align themselves with the coach and/or other players, so some peer-to-peer stuff as well, and set themselves a challenge around stuff they want to get better at. So tomorrow's session, I've sent you it out in advance. What I want everyone to do at some point in the day is come and find me and give me a bit of a clue as to how I can help you get better on the one thing you want to get better at. So signposting them to me rather than me to them. I will deliberately give poor information so that I'll then go, cool, who's got some great questions? And then they'll immediately be asking me questions. And then we've already set the tone around they ask questions to me. Marcus Smith's development plans. So again, like having development plans, probably I'm sure you're doing it. With the Hurricanes, we call it TTE, so tools to excite. In my opinion, is another way of just creating better interactions from them to me rather than me to them. Principle, we play poker, not chess. So we obviously in chess you can see all the pieces, but in oh my god, another round of pancakes! Stop it! Wow, is it pancake? Did you have pancake day over there as well, Paul, in Canada?
I want to say we do. I don't know how Canadian it is though.
Kevin's nodding.
Kevin's nodding.
Kevin's nodding and thinking, how does Paul not know this? So, and the point of this is that, so in chess, you know where all the pieces are. In poker, you don't. You know some of the cards, and you got to work out what your opponent's got and are they bluffing, and that is sport. So we know some of the things they're going to do. We might have, if we've got video analysis, we've probably got a few more clues, but the reality is we've got to work it out as we go, and so that influences my coach behaviours significantly. So who I give information to, when and why, is really important. The last 3 months, every single time I've coached, I've gone, cool, which team wants more challenge than the other? And go, yeah, we want challenge, just cool, okay. I'm going to pull in one team. I'm going to give them the rules of the game, and your goal is you've got 5 minutes to work out all the rules of the game. And then, so they'll play the game, and I might go, cool, 2-0, or cool, turnover. And I might prompt, I might go, have you worked it out yet? Oh, I wonder why they got 2 points and not 3 points for that thing. So I've done that for the last 3 months, and it has ramped up problem solving, engagement, and they work it out really quickly. And actually, when you speak to people and go, oh, how often do you train, where one team has different rules to the other, they'll go, never. And I'll go, that's weird because that's the game. And it could be as simple as, in rugby, a try's worth 1, and each team have a bit of a chat. You've got to pick a 3-point way of scoring. Now, we might then go, okay, if the other team works it out and 4 people put their hand up and like guess it, then you lose it. Or actually, like, yeah, we can just play around with the problem solving element of it. But for me, this kind of first principle means that I very rarely give everyone the same information. I think lots of people give lots of people the same information. And I've got a framework around problem solving, which is see it, share it, solve it. So I might, if they see it, my scaffolds might be, it has to be 4 people that put their hand up before you guess. And I might go, you'd lose it, or I might go, it gives you a bonus 5 points. Or I might go, you've got a timeout, you've got a 30-second timeout to and I give them the chance to share it, because I probably want to scaffold that, because actually speed of problem solving is a really important skill in sport. How many times have we gone, I've been in so many post-match huddles where we're going, and we should have done this, and we should have done that, and if only we'd done this. And of course, we didn't do any of it because we were never practicing like that. And that is a true story, and I appreciate your nods for that, Paul Hunter. Thinking back to sessions and going, oh, if only. I guess, and all of this is, for me, is about decision making. So, like, this is the most important coaching skill. What are you noticing? And if you're coaching problem solving, you're actually noticing different things. You're noticing where players are looking, and are they sharing information with other players? You're maybe not noticing some of the tech stuff. And then we make decisions around, and these kind of interactions, these coaching skills, we go, okay, like, Byron might go, okay, actually at this point, do I need to be a little bit more direct with this player? And actually, normally I'm pretty positive with them, but actually I need to like hold the mirror up to them at this point, because actually it's a behavioural thing, and we need to, set standards. But you could do that skillfully. You might go, okay, like, I think what I've noticed you do is this, Kevin. And if you were in my shoes and, you were coaching one of the players, how would you feel about that? So you can do that skillfully. So I guess I'm just saying this is the stuff you're doing all the time. This for me is like the most simplified version of coaching. We're noticing stuff, we're then making decisions around our interactions. And I guess we put together all the interactions to kind of do that. I'm just going to share these, and then I'm going to pause because I'm mindful of time, Paul. I'm going to just because I have stuff that and you'll all have stuff that can guide your behaviors. And this is stuff, and if I give you a good example of why that is, so this kind of changed my coaching, really, if I'm honest. So with England, we looked at the world's best players, what were the skills that they had to thrive in the game and in life. And creativity, awareness, resilience, decision-making, self-organizing. You wouldn't go too far away from that, to be honest, to be an effective human. And so then I got really interested in okay, what does a really good decision-making conversation start like? And okay, if creativity is solutions to problems, how do my practices create problems and then give them opportunities to go, okay, all right, we scored that way once, let's do the same start point. Can you find a different way of scoring? But of course, if the C was conformity, I would go, Jared, get behind the cone, wait for me, I'll blow the whistle, you do what you're told. So I think without this, I was probably just grasping around in the dark a little bit, and it really helped me. A couple of others that I'll just reference quickly. So we used Dan Hughes's model. We added an L. So these are the behaviours of adults in environments that get the best out of young people: playful, loving, accepting, curious, empathetic. And then we would reflect on those every evening. Oh, cool guy. Give an example of a coach today who's been super playful. Which one of them have you struggled the most with? I've really struggled with acceptance. I'm really struggling with this player. Okay, well, self-determination theory, which people will be aware of, and I guess I've referenced lots of bits of that: levels, competence, autonomy, choice, open questions, relatedness, peer-to-peer, how people enter your environment. I use Gary Klein's pre-mortem a lot because I think that everything is possible, and I'm way too optimistic. So as an example, I turned up in New Zealand to the Hurricanes and I said, let's fast forward 2 weeks. It's 5 o'clock on Friday. I'm leaving and you've all had the worst 2 weeks ever. I just want you all to take a breath and write down the 2 reasons why it's been terrible. And then I get some really helpful information that I wouldn't have thought of. that can then influence my coach behaviors, because otherwise I wouldn't think about that stuff. Danny Newcomb, coach session intention locator. And if I give you an example with the Hurricanes, we have learn, challenge, win. And within each session, we'll have elements of different bits. Win might be, it's a penalty, you've got to get this. If you miss it, you're getting hot chocolates for the rest of the team. Challenge might be, we're going to put, we've been working on this, like passing, on switches and loops. Can we put them into a game? Can we find the right moment? And explore is, okay, we're going to practice switches and loops, going to give you a few goes, try and work it out with the people around you, like what would be effective. Now, the reason I share this is because without agreeing this intention, all the coach behaviors are different. So during the learn phase, we might be like a bit more noticing, a bit more like maybe some little prompts to help people, maybe think about this, try this, but actually in the execute, we might create pressure. We might go, oh, Kevin, remember that last penalty you took and you missed it? Wouldn't want to miss it again, would you? Like, oh, that would be disappointing to have to buy chocolates for everyone. Everyone, no one look, everyone, like, please be quiet. Like, no one put Kevin off. Please, no one put Kevin off. We don't want him to miss this penalty. And then the last one is this. So this is just how I think about coaching. So I guess we've chatted about some of this, but I think practice design is the most important thing, getting people on the right level of the game. Then our awareness, our intention. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? With whom? Then you've got to like triangulate that with other co-coaches. Oh, wow. Didn't realize that, Paul. Like me and you we didn't speak once to the goalkeepers today. Oh, that happens a lot in football, by the way. Cool. Just tell me, coaches, how many times did the other coaches speak to the goalkeepers? Oh, I don't know. Oh, damn, none of us spoke to the goalkeepers. Oh, for our goalies. And I think when you sort that stuff out, then you have added magic. So I'm mindful. I've already run over time, Paul. So and I still have more slides. I do think where you stand is your first touch, and I will. Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'll definitely, if anyone has any questions or stuff that's landed, that would be great to know.
Yeah, like maybe just open up for a couple of questions from anyone in terms of maybe how some of that's landed.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in what's landed.
Yeah, what I really kind of like a good insight for me, it like opened my eyes to something that I need to start doing is coaching in the future. You touched on it early, and I thought that was really really cool insight. So definitely something I want to try to integrate into my practices.
I just want to say bye to my son. He's just got back to uni. Love you.
Love you. Bye. See you.
Oh, sorry. I've got to get dad hugs while I still can. They're becoming rarer and rarer. Yeah, like when someone told me that originally, I was like, kind of punched me in the face, if I'm honest. And actually what percentage of your coaching is, and of course, like some of it is about the past, but how much is it about the future? And I often think that about like half times as an example, like sometimes we're just talking about what happened and not actually going like, and what are we going to go and do about it? I remember when you did this and you did this and this happened. And I think often more likely when things aren't going well. It would be really interesting, wouldn't it, Byron, to work out what are the things that influence when you coach in the future versus in the past. Like it might be actually that it's a losing quarter and I'm way more likely to be in the past. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing.
I mean, when it's in a practice situation, I often find myself going over things that have just happened and trying to point out, like where things broke down and, what they should have done, sort of thing. Yeah, I just find myself doing that a lot. So if I can start to sprinkle in more communication around, hey, like, okay, where's your next pass going to be? Who's going to be open? Where are they going to be open? So shift it more to that future tense, which is could be a bit more positive as well.
Yeah.
It gets them off of dwelling on mistakes that they have made and more onto opportunities of opportunities for them to have success in the future. So,
Yeah, and you might want to signpost that. You might want to go, today's session, we're hoping to move from here to here. And I know that's going to be frustrating. And at times you're going to feel like emotionally dysregulated. And one of the things I really want us to be is the mindset I want us to think about is super optimistic and in the future and what can we do? And then the other thing you made me think about is just my experience of lots of coaches is they do not use freeze enough. So they use huddles, everyone in, versus cool, freeze, no one move. Okay. Kevin, close your eyes. How many attackers are outside you? How many defenders are there? Cool. Have you seen that? Open your eyes. Okay, let's just go down to 50%. Show me how you could score in this situation. Or I might take the heat off Kevin and I might go, cool, people outside Kevin, put your hand up if you gave him some helpful information. No one's put their hand up. Cool, awesome. Show me what really helpful information could look like. Okay, how could we make anyone got any ways of making that better? Because, we could put a name on it and we could. So again, I have levels around communication. So like level 3 is name action. So yeah, I think people, to go back to your thing, maybe my challenge to you is to probably I wanted to say don't stop the training as much, but I think really intentional freezes, picture, turn that moment into a memory, just want everyone to remember this picture, oh my God, we have absolutely got them dead now, haven't we? Look, we've done this and this, and look what it's done. And I had a kid at Ulster do that. He said, Rusty, I think we should do the freezes. So I was coaching them a new defence. He said, Rusty, how about if we call freeze 4 times when we think the defence is really good? And I was like, you are a genius, young man. Honestly, you're doing all my work for me. I appreciate it. So helpful. Class. Any other stuff that's landed?
I just have a question for you, Rusty. So when you go into practice, do you have to remind yourself to use those different tools at weekly or monthly? Obviously sometimes you can fall into being very repetitive as a coach. So you kind of have to remind yourself to try different tools.
Yeah, I will. If I'm brutally honest, I will experiment with something every single session. There is no session where I won't try something new, ever. I don't always know what it's going to be, but I might see it and go, "Oh, I'm going to try this with this. I'm going to give that a go." But what I tend to do that I feel helps me is link 2 or 3 coach behaviors to a practice. So let's say we were doing one-on-one coaching. I hate one-on-one coaching. It's so boring to me, and probably even more boring for them. But with one-on-one coaching, I might go, I'm likely to use levels, analogies. So I might go, okay, cool. When that gets to 9 or 10 out of 10, tell me where you feel that in your body, or tell me what it feels like. And I had a kid with hockey go, it feels like I'm sitting on the toilet, Rusty. I'm like, cool. Every time you're doing an aerial, then just imagine yourself sitting on the toilet first. And I probably use a scoring system, because scoring system can give you feedback. So it might be passing around almost like a target on the wall type stuff. So, and then when it's a big game, way more people on the pitch, probably going to use prompting because I don't want to stop the session. Probably going to use freeze because I want people to see shared pictures. Go freeze. Defense, stay where you are. Attack, I'm going to give you those last 2 seconds again. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to get into better positions. 2, 1. Okay, let's go. And I'll probably use a second ball because I definitely need to think about who's going to get the ball. And actually, if we're going to practice left-handed passing, we're going to put it on this side of the pitch. Or actually, no one's passed the ball yet to Travis. And so, yeah, I'll probably link them to my practice design initially, and then I will try and throw in something new every session. It's a great question. I was completely unaware of all this stuff for the first 20 years of my coaching career, by the way. I was like,
that's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm sure it takes time to figure everything out. And obviously, if you want to be a good coach, you have to put a lot of work in, right?
Yeah,
Like,
everyone. I said
there's
that's
a
what I
lot
said.
that comes into it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants the view from the top, and they don't necessarily want the climb. And please don't watch any videos of me coaching that are more than a month ago, because I was terrible. And I went to Australia, and I was like, so I got about 200 people at a conference. Cool, put your hand up if you videoed yourself coaching the last 3 times in the last 6 months. No one, including international coaches. Put your hand up if you've audioed yourself. A couple of people. Put your hand up if you've gone and coached a different sport, coached in a different language, like co-coached with at least 5 different coaches in the last 2 months. Right. I'm like, this is cool that you're here, and I'm super appreciative. However, on a day-to-day basis, you could be getting better. And again, if you've got a group like this that are like-minded, you might go, let's just like do an experiment each a week or a month, and we'll just have a Zoom every month, and we'll just check in, and we'll steal loads of ideas off each other. So I'm in loads of groups like that. So I just went to Sunderland and set up a WhatsApp group called La Revolution, and everyone agrees to do 3 challenges a week. We're 3 weeks in. Stu was like, "Oh, they won't stick to it." I was like, "They will. I'm going to set up a WhatsApp group. I'm going to make it anyone that wants to come and join the revolution can join the revolution." And 60% of them have joined the revolution, and they're doing 3 experiments a week, and it's amazing. I think it should be like normal work. So I'm not saying do loads of extra stuff. I'm just going, just try one more thing. And I guess the toolbox gives you some clues as to what the one more thing would be. So I'll send you some screenshots from it that I think will be helpful. Just written that down.
Awesome. I'm cautious of time, and I know we could keep going on this. I do want to say a thank you to Rusty for taking the time. Enjoying pancakes on a Tuesday evening. Not a bad way to spend your time. But thank you, Rusty. Listen, it's a great opportunity. I've taken a ton of notes, listening to Byron and Pico and seeing kind of people's body language and head nodding. I'm sure there's people reflecting on their behaviour, so great opportunity. I know that Rusty's pretty active on social media, so if you get to follow him, you kind of keep tracking along with what he's doing with some different pieces. But Rusty, thank you very much. I'll send out some feedback, and if there's any kind of questions on there, I can definitely follow up with Rusty if there's kind of further information that we want with anyone. But does anyone have any kind of closing comments before we say kind of goodbyes and thank yous and see if we get some smiles coming
Just
back?
a big thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, look, you can
Thanks
get
so
my
much, Rusty.
get my deets off Paul. If there's anything you're more curious about, just let me know. You'll all, again, I appreciate like that you're all be doing amazing work, and I definitely appreciate people who are coaching and helping others. It's sometimes a thankless task, and you don't necessarily get the feedback that you always want. So yeah, no, thank you as well, and appreciate you jumping on. And as I said, I was completely unaware of this till probably 10 years ago. And you're just doing stuff by chance, then you go, oh my God, I could be way more intentional.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. And Rusty, I hope we catch up again soon, but thank you for your time and good to see everyone. And listen, keep up the great work that we're all doing in our clubs and our other programs. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Right.
Cheers,
Rusty.
peeps. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, guys. See ya.